Alan Schimmel, DevOps.com, here live at the DevOps Enterprise Summit. My guest with me is actually a friend of mine, Carmen DeArdo of Nationwide. Carmen, welcome.
Hi, Alan. Glad to be here.
Absolutely. And Carmen, you literally just walked in off the off the Grand Hall floor, where you were delivering a session. Do you want to tell our audience maybe about your session, what it was about?
Yeah, sure, Alan. So, what I was talking about a lot was how you apply some of the concepts we've been talking about to really make more effective your whole delivery stream from a lean perspective, right? So, you know, I think you know better than I, a lot of times this journey starts with agile and agile development, but then as you start to get into it, you realize you have to really go beyond that to the entire value stream and flow of work and visibility, and you know, how do you address that, and just sort of relating some of our journeys, what progress we've made, and you know, some of the challenges that remain.
Excellent. And Carmen, you are a repeat. You actually presented last year at the first DevOps Enterprise, correct?
That's correct. And for some reason, Gene had a rare moment of ignorance. He said, "I think we'll have Carmen back again." I don't
One
know.
of the few mistakes he's made.
Yes, so I made him pay for it.
You're Carmen. We've interviewed you before. I know very well why Gene had you here. But that being said, Carmen, I'm interested in your observations from last year to this year.
Yeah, it's interesting you say that, Alan, because backstage, actually, Gene caught me and we talked a little, and I told him about the conference and how, you know, I was really enjoying it, and you know, he wouldn't let me go. He said, "Well, why?" Right? And I said, "Well, yeah, even if it's the same people, sometimes you go to a conference, and if you put 3 years of those conferences together, you might not be able to tell what year that session was from, right? In this case, you can, right? You can see there's a progression. You can see themes. I mean, I actually was sitting there today, and you know, themes I was going to touch on came out that were not discussed before. Themes like self-service, right? More and more we're talking about self-service and infrastructure as a service, and I heard that a number of times in the talks today. More talks about the culture, right? You know, Ticketmaster was a great example of saying the technology doesn't matter at all, right? Well, but I will say that, you know, one of my takeaways was technology is kind of the fun part, the culture is the challenge. So I think what you're seeing is people are thinking about this as they're taking the journey, and it's happening, right? This is not like mature, you know, some things are mature and that's great and you can hear about that, and then there's the new frontiers that people are running into as we solve some of those problems, and so you get a much different perspective and a sense of, okay, these are the next things that people are trying to take on and solve, and it's great to hear other people talk about that, because you know, we all sort of in it, you know, it's a real community event, and we all, I think, need help of how to come at some of these things.
So I agree, Carmen. I think one of the unique things about the DevOps Enterprise Summit is sort of the instant community that's formed here with the people. And I think it is because people are here, they ask questions, everyone's looking for answers. An interesting thing, though, is we see so many more examples where last year Nationwide was sort of the poster child, if you will, for insurance and finance and so forth, where this year, my goodness, there are so many other companies, who have, you know, are leading this charge, or at least joining the charge. And it makes us wonder, have we just scratched the surface? Is this peaking? Where do we go? Where does it look like in 3 to 5 years?
I mean, I think we're somewhere between, you know, what was Churchill's comment, it's not the end, it's not even the beginning of the end, but it might be the end of the beginning. I'm not even sure it's the end of the beginning, actually. I mean, I think there's a long way to go, right? I mean, just even think about DevOps and what it initially meant, right? It was really talking about development and operations and how to get, you know, through some of those barriers. But you know, when you start talking about the value stream, there's that whole planning component. I mean, I think that's a frontier, and I've been talking about this. I mean, one of the things in my talk was, one of my sort of takeaways was, we spend, and I don't think we're alone, a majority of our time and money before a card ever hits an Agile team's backlog. So even if we did everything perfectly, automated testing, continuous integration, infrastructure automation, deployment automation, you still are sitting there with waiting for work to flow into the system, right? How do you really address that effectively? And so there's this whole planning component, and then I just think, dealing with all the variants, right? It's hard to automate things without patterns, and you can't have a pattern if you don't eliminate variants. So I think we have a long way to go in applying some of these, and a lot more value to gain. And I think what's, before I would say, we feel like we've gotten to where we can even see where the end of this could be. So I think it's exciting, and I think it's great to have this kind of opportunity. A lot of the stuff that you guys do at DevOps.com, I mean, you really help build that community that really helps us share. And as you said, now I sat down with a Fidelity guy at lunch, and they had a great story around some of the automation they were doing.
Actually, I just did a webinar with them, I think it was last week, with Fidelity. They do have a great story. Anyway, I think we're just about out of time though. Carmen, you know what? But you're one of the people who make it happen, and I thank you for all you've done in helping define and build this community, and for the great work you've done at Nationwide, but shining a light on it as well, so that others can learn from your example. So on behalf of Electric Cloud and IT Revolution and DevOps.com, thank you for being a speaker and participating, and we hope to have you back at next year's DevOps Enterprise.
Well, if Gene has another flash there where he forgets about it, maybe I can be back and talk. Either way, I'm going to be here, because it's just, there's too much good information to be shared to miss it. It's just a great conference, and again, thank you, Alan.
Thank you. Carmen DeArdo, Nationwide. This is Alan Schimmel for DevOps.com.